Now, I was raised in the Appalachian Mountains. Currently not living there now. I'm actually in the suburbs. But, and my family was, I was raised, my family were Yankees. So I never really adopted the Southern twang that is usually, apparent with people from the South. But for this, I'm going to let my whole country out to prove a point. And that is that country people, South people, we're not rednecks. We're not ignorant, inbred hicks. That whole entire stereotype that has been allowed to happen and has been perpetuated by Hollywood and then later brought back into the public view through alt-reality TV shows like Honey Boo Boo and Duck Dynasty does not represent the people of the South. Redneck is a stereotype. It is a small minority group and has somehow got elevated into representing the entire southern district of the United States of America. So what's interesting is the Federalist 7 talks about this very situation, and I have it pretty much sub-themed as what would cause a civil war, which is what's happening right now. We have our federal government trying to create a civil war within the states. Why? Well, as we talked about in the last podcast episode, we have vulture capitalists currently usurped the federal government. And by creating a civil war within the states, we create chaos and division. And if you look over in Venezuela, where we've got Russian military, a whole OPEC alliance military that's waiting, they can come in under the false pretense of salvation, saying that they're going to support the President of the United States, and they can turn on the American citizens and American people under that purview. So this is really, really, really serious stuff what's happening right now, because the whole entire nation is being fooled by costumes and props of paid actors and actresses. And if you look at those entertainment news networks, you're going to find entertainment news networks, the ones that are going after the journalists and U.S. press and calling them fake news, they're entertainment. If you look at the fraudulent 501c3s that are claiming that they're, all these people are anti-American, they are breaking IRS rules. You're not allowed to engage in biased political activity. So let's just set the record straight on what a Southern American really looks like, because a Southern woman is very, very strong. We have put up with a lot of crap. We have put up our entire lives being told that we're not good enough because we're women. We have had to deal with the BS in our own counties and in our own state that said women are not at the same level as men. In fact, in Virginia, our ERA rules were that whole ERA thing last year. You know what stopped it? A biased subcommittee of 5 people. They buried it in a overstuffed agenda. You couldn't even find it if you were looking for it. And they had 5 biased subcommittees squash the ERA. While some of these state politicians, the state senators, were saying that their ERA was their gun. This is ridiculous. Now, I've talked in other podcast episodes what 2A is really about. It's not about individual guns, and all that crap that's going on is to con the rural Americans into becoming the political soldiers who will wipe out the political opponents of these people who are conning the American Royal Americans in the first place. So, let's get to Federalist 7. What would cause a civil war? By Alexander Hamilton. It is sometimes asked with an air of seeming triumph, what inducement could the states have if disunited to make war upon each other? It would be a full answer to this question to say precisely the same inducements which have at different times deluged in blood all the nations in the world. But unfortunately for us, the question admits of a more particular answer. There are causes of difference within our immediate contemplation of the tendencies of which, even under the restraints of a federal constitution, we have had sufficient experience to enable us to form a judgment of what might be expected if those restraints were removed. Territorial disputes have at all times been found one of the most fertile sources of hostility among nations. Perhaps the greatest proportion of the wars that have desolated the earth have sprung from this origin. This cause would exist among us in full force. We have a vast tract of unsettled territory within the boundaries of the United States, and there still are discordant and undecided claims between several of them, and the dissolution of the Union would lay a foundation for similar claims between them all. basically what was happening is they were about ready to go into civil war over the waterways. What's happening today in the United States? What is our waterways? Oil, all those pipelines. There is a lot of fighting over those pipelines and who's going to control that oil that's underneath our ground. That's what's happening. We have a lot of big oil that has bought a lot of these politicians. We have foreign government controlled corporations who have bought big oil. Russia, Rosneft, in fact, Rosneft just sold itself to the Russian government. We have the Russian government who is trying to monopolize the whole entire oil industry. And we have our president who has been using our U.S. military to help them do it with sanctions and risking soldiers' lives to give Russia the oil monopoly. These things have been going on right here under our noses at the United States of America. And we have been too distracted by all the political reality stars out there pretending to be government experts with their books, their bestsellers, and their networks, and their broadcasts, and their web shows, and they have been lying about God, about the Founding Fathers, about the U.S. Constitution, and about 2A. Defrauding the entire nation and getting us to hate each other, North against South, so that we break up into a civil war, and that while we're distracted, we could have those foreign governments come in with their military and wipe us out, enslave us. That's what Federalist 7 is all about. It's talking about it right now because that's the situation they were in before the U.S. Constitution happened, before they created that federal government. That big federal government was created by the U.S. Constitution. So they were about ready to go into a civil war because of those waterways. We're about ready to go in civil war because of oil. Let's see, let's skip on down to, here we go. The competition of commerce would be another fruitful source of contention. The state's less favorable circumstance would be desirous of escaping from the disadvantages of local situation and of sharing in the advantages of the more fortunate neighbors. Each state or separate confederacy would pursue a system of commercial polity particular to itself. This would occasion distinctions, preferences, and exclusions, which would beget discontent. So we get that whole merchant group involved, and we say, which is happening now. While we have a state, and all the states are in a quarantine because of a disease that does not give a crap about your political affiliation, your wealth status. I mean, it's a disease. Diseases don't care. They're parasites. They want to find a new host in which to infect, and they don't care what your age is, or what your wealth status is, what your political status is. We're talking about diseases. They don't abide by government laws. They have their own rules. It's the rules of science. I'm a parasite. There's a host. I'm an infected. And so you have these people who have been conned by these, and maybe they're paid actors, maybe they're paid actresses. I don't know. I mean, come on. You jeopardize your life because of money so that you can be this symbol, this costumes and props. You're going to jeopardize your own life because diseases don't care if you're an actress or paid or what. They don't care. They will infect us all the same. And so we have these groups who are trying to create a civil war here in the United States of America. And that's exactly what was happening. Almost happened before our U.S. Constitution. So here we're talking about the merchant part of it, the commercial part of it. Each state or separate confederacy would pursue a system of commercial polity particular to itself, and this would occasion distinctions, preferences, and exclusions, which would beget discontent. It's gonna make people angry. The habits of intercourse on the basis of equal privilege to which we have been accustomed from the earliest settlements of the country would give a keener edge to those causes of discontent than they would naturally have, independent of this circumstance. We should be ready to denominate injuries, those things which were in reality the justifiable acts of independent sovereignties consulting a distinct interest. Oil. Corporate shareholder interest. If we look at China and we look at the U.S. corporations that are listed on the Chinese labor violation reports, you would be appalled to see the corporations that have been abusing the Chinese workers and are responsible for the toxicity that has violated China's air, water, and oil and have destroyed their citizens. Our U.S. corporations are responsible for that. Corporations, factories that are coming back to the United States of America, while the EPA, who was usurped by vulture capitalists, are changing our laws to allow toxicity in our air, water, and soil. You got mad because, you talk about all this cheap going on in China. Well, that's coming here. And this is why we're getting wiped out. This is why our economy is getting wiped out. This is why we're trying to be pushed into a civil war. This is why the North and South are being put against each other. And it's all costumes and props. It's cheap showbiz tricks. The spirit of enterprise, which characterizes the commercial part of America, has left no occasion of displaying itself unimproved. It is not at all probable this unbridled spirit would pay much respect to those regulations of trade by which particular states might endeavor to secure exclusive benefits to their own citizens. The infractions of these regulations on one side, the efforts to prevent and repel them on the other, would naturally lead to outrages, and these to reprisals and war. The opportunities which some states would have of rendering other tributary to them, maybe like, oh, you get testing, you're going to get testing, you're going to get testing, you're a state, you're going to support me, you're going to get testing. We don't do tributary here. It's not the Hunger Games. By commercial regulations would be impatiently submitted to the tributary of states. The relatives, and then they give you an example, and I'm not going to read that, but I do have this on my SoundCloud. If you go to SoundCloud, Redesign Your Thinking, I read this entire letter for you and explain everything, but I'm just skipping through some parts on this. So they give examples after they talk about this and what exactly was going on during their time. The public debt of the Union would be a further cause of collision between the separate states or confederacies. So now we're talking about the public debt, and that's the big thing right now, the deficit. The apportionment in the first instance and the progressive extinguishment afterwards would be likely productive of all ill humor and animosity. How would it be possible to agree upon a rule of apportionment satisfactory to all? There is scarcely any that can be proposed which is entirely free from real objections. These, as usual, would be exaggerated by the adverse interests of the parties. There are even dissimilar views among the states as to the general principle of discharging the public debt, and some of them either less impressed with the importance of national credit or because their citizens have so little. And we're looking right now, and the poor communities are the ones suffering the most. If any immediate interest in the question, feel an indifference, if not a repugnance to the payment of the domestic debt at any rate. These would be inclined to magnify the difficulties of a distribution. Others of them, a numerous body of whose citizens are creditors to the public, the ones who are paying into, beyond the proportion of the state and the total amount of the national debt, would be strenuous for some equitable and effectual provision. So the taxpayers, our money that is being used right now for these bailouts and everything like that, our money that's now being given back to us, but also being given to corporations who pay nothing into our tax system, and the investors who pay nothing into our tax system, and the rich who pay nothing into the tax system. The procrastinations of the former would excite the resentment of the latter. The settlement of a rule would in the meantime be postponed by real differences of opinion and affected delays. Oh, look, there's delays, and here's a delay. Oh, here's the stimulus, but there's a delay in getting it out. Oh, we ran out of money. Oh, the small business loans that are connected to Alibaba, which is the government-controlled corporation of Chairman Xi. Oops, we don't have that money now. Where did that money go? We gave them a bailout. Well, what happened to that? What about BlackRock, who has the Anbang insurance, which got seized by Chairman Xi after the Anbang scandal, which connects to Jared Kushner? Where did that money go? Oh, they got bailouts from the U.S. Treasury. Well, why don't we get our money? We paid into it. Why is it the people who are not paying into our tax system is getting our money? Let's see, the citizens of the states interested would clamor. Foreign powers would urge for the satisfaction of their just demands, and the peace of the states would be hazard to the double contingency of external evasion and internal contention. We have right now China, who is using the Belt Road investment scam that they have conned all the global leaders to buy into this, and have conned the central banks, and have conned the investment, the insurance markets and corporations to buy into this, is now having all this money because they pulled it from their Shanghai markets. They flooded the global markets with cash. They have all this money, and they're going to those the countries that bought into the BRI plan and saying, we can bail you out. That's exactly what they're talking about right here. For the citizens of the state interested would clamor, foreign powers would urge. For the satisfaction of their just demand, and the peace of the states would be hazard to the double contingency of external invasion. External invasion, where a state government-controlled corporation of a foreign government is able to seize control of all the money, the U.S. Treasury money, and the corporations, and is now putting that state at its mercy, the United States at its mercy. Suppose the difficulties of agreeing upon a rule surmounted and the apportionment made, still there is great room to suppose that the rule agreed upon would experiment be found to bear harder upon some states than upon others. Those which were sufferers by it would naturally seek for a mitigation of the burden. Well, of course, we're going to try to get those bailouts because we don't have income coming in. We have a whole entire United States that has been laid off. We have people working from home, and a lot of people are jobless. Let me tell you, I know what that's like. And those which were sufferers by it would naturally seek for a mitigation of the burden, and the others would as naturally be disinclined to a revision, which was likely to end in an increase of their own incumbents. Their refusal would be too plausible a pretext to the complaining states to withhold their contributions, not to be embraced with avidity, and the non-compliance of these states with their engagements would be a ground of bitter dissension and altercation. If even the rule adopted should in practice justify the equality of its principles, should distill delinquency in payment. Delinquency in payment. We're seeing that now. Everything Alexander Hamilton's talked about right here. And what date was it? 1787. We are seeing in 2020. Holy cow. We have not really progressed much, have we? Everything that they were seeing here. The risk of being conquered here before the U.S. Constitution was created that protected the United States and made it a federal government that had a military branch that protected the entire states. We are seeing now. What in the heck happened? It's just, Suppose the difficulties of agreeing upon a rule surmounted and the apportionment made, still there is a great room to suppose that the rule agreed upon would, upon experiment, be found to bear harder in some states than upon others, and those which were sufferers by it naturally seek for mitigation of the burden. So I've already read all that. See, I get still caught up in this. If even the rule adopted should in practice justify the equality of its principles, still delinquencies in payment on the part of some of the states would result from a diversity of other causes, the real deficiency of resources, the mismanagement of their finances. Do you know that if you look at the audits of all the different U.S. industries, of the department heads, you are going to see a line that says clerical error. There are tons of clerical errors. I researched this when I was looking for how much it costs for the roads. I saw it on the news and somebody said it was like so much million for a square foot. And I'm like, holy cow, where'd they get that from? Apparently they get that number from when the original interstate road was created back in, I don't know what date it was now. But the fact that we have progressed so much and our equipment have changed so much, they're still using these old standards in order to quantify these amounts. That's kind of ridiculous. and in addition to rest the reluctance which men commonly part with money for purposes that have outlived the exigencies which produce them, and interfere with the supply of immediate wants. Delinquencies from whatever causes would be productive of complaints, recriminations, and quarrels, and there is perhaps nothing more likely to disturb the tranquility of nations than their being bound to mutual contributions for any common object, which does not yield an equal and coincident benefit. For it is an observation as true as it is trite, that there is nothing men differ so readily about as the payment of money. Laws in violation of private contracts, as they amount to aggression on the rights of those states where citizens are injured by them, may be considered as another probable source of hostility. We are not authorized to expect that a more liberal or more equitable spirit would preside over the legislations of the individual states hereafter, and if unrestrained by any additional checks, which is why we have our checks and balance system. We have the federal government, but we have our state governments who hold them in check, and then we have the county governments who hold the state governments in check. Each government system holds the other in check. That we have hitherto foreseen, in too many instances, disgracing their several codes. Codes is laws, the laws that govern those states, state codes. We have observed the disposition to retaliation excited in Connecticut. And again, he gives you another example. This is why I love this guy. That America, if not, from the view that we have exhibited on this part of the subject, this conclusion can be drawn. So this is the end of the letter. That America, if not connected at all, meaning if we're disunited, or only by the feeble tie of a simple league, offensive and defensive, if we have that limited government, which is not the U.S. Constitution, it was the anti-constitutional argument, would by operation of such opposite and jarring alliances be gradually entangled in the pernicious labyrinths of European politics and war. What they saw with Europe by having no separate territories and all that fighting that was going on, they said that would happen here. And by the destructive contentions of the parts into which she was divided would be likely to become a prey to the artifices and machinations of power, equally the enemies of them all. Divide et impera must be the motto of every nation that either hates or fears us, which is exactly what's going on now. We are being divided so we can be conquered. And if we erupt into that civil war, if we have that North versus South, and we have Southern Americans being typecast as rednecks so that they take their guns and they go after their political opponents like they were some kind of SS soldiers from Germany 1934, because we had one little guy who was a psychopathic narcissist who was able to gain control of the entire country because he gaslights and manipulates, and that's just part of the disease. And we have vulture capitalists who supported him, and the corrupt lawyers who supported him because he's also a fraudulent investor, and that's what corrupt lawyers do. We have that situation right now that we had back then before the U.S. Constitution happened, and if we allow that, then we have to look at every single law firm that's out there that has a JD and say, what the hell? Why are we paying you $300 an hour when you can't even protect the United States? We look at every single AG that's out there and say, what the hell? Why are you even in your position? 50 state governments supposed to rein in this federal usurpation, and you can't do your job. We have so many people who are doing their job, the healthcare workers who are doing their job, the nurses who are doing the job, the people down at the bottom who are doing their job for the United States, and we have the people up at the top, and you're giving it all away. Maybe we should reverse it. Maybe we should make 99% as far greater than 1%, because it is. And Federalist 26, as I said before, if we get in a situation where we have that, we can recall all the power we gave to the government, the federal government, put it back into the states. We manage our own affairs, but we don't really want to do that because it creates an opportunity for us to be conquered because nobody has control of the U.S. military. So states step up. And people, you got to get your states step up. And they won't step up, fire their ass.